Hi, my name is Dara Simi, and I'm editor for Vox. Okay, so in 1775, the Second Continental Congress met in Philadelphia. In this Congress, all 13 colonies were represented, and there was no thought of independence yet. They drafted appeals to King and Queen, but the appeals were rejected, and its goals was to get the King and Queen to change the way it governed its people. They also created a common army to defend the colonies during the American Revolution, and they chose George Washington to lead the army. This is a map of the Battle of Bunker Hill. During the independence, there were lots of warfare. Many colonists raised armies and attacked British soldiers, such as like the Battle of Bunker Hill, for example. It was a battle between British and colonists in the early stages of the Revolution. The British barely won, and the battle was important because it proved that the colonists could hold their own against the British army. This is King George, and basically, Americans had loyalty to this guy right here, the king. They created the Olive Branch Petition in the Continental Congress, the Second Continental Congress, and King George said no because of Bunker Hill, the details that happened at Bunker Hill. The Olive Branch Petition was just a petition that professed loyalty to the crown and begged the king to stop all future conflicts. But the king really disliked the colonists. He went as far as hiring German troops to kill them. These German troops were called the Hessians. This is an example of what they look like. And the goal of the Hessians was money. They had some duty to the king, duty/loyalty to the king, but money was their main focus. Okay, so this picture depicts the capture of Montreal. And this was during colonies' conquest of Canada. They wanted to conquer Canada because they believed that the French were weak under the British rule, especially after the French and Indian War. But this belief was wrong because they were not. General Richard Montgomery captured Montreal in 1775. He and Benedict Arnold captured Quebec. Both were eventually killed by French-Canadian leaders. And around this time, there was also some internal fighting in the colonies, which led to battles. Okay, this is Common Sense by Thomas Paine. Originally, America didn't think of independence against Britain at first because loyalty was practically ingrained into colonists' mind because Britain was their mother country and they were the son/daughter of it, and they wouldn't think to defy them first. Also, there was weak colonial unity, and rebels were brutally murdered. If you were a rebel, you were dead. It was almost impossible for them to rebel. They wanted to claim independence. As time passed on, they realized that they wanted to claim independence because they saw how Britain treated them. Britain, some examples of its cruelties are burning 2 cities, Norfolk and Falmouth, and also hiring the Hessians. Thomas Paine, he was a radicalist, wrote this book, Common Sense, which was very popular among colonies. It promoted ideas that supported independence against Britain, and it convinced Americans that their true goal was independence rather than reconciliation with Britain. And this was the author himself, Thomas Paine. His ideas that were in his book promoted republicanism across the colonies, and it also led to more people supporting his beliefs regarding republicanism, ideas supporting the fact that the good of the people were greater than the private rights and interests of individuals. But not everyone agreed with Paine. There were some conservative Republicans who wanted to get rid of the hereditary aristocracy, which is basically just inheriting power from someone who's your family or a parent, inheriting power and position from a parent. They wanted to get rid of that. Not everyone wanted to get rid of that, but some people wanted to get rid of that. The conservative Republicans wanted to get rid of that, but they also wanted to keep the social hierarchy. Whereas poorer colonists wanted to get rid of both the social hierarchy and hereditary aristocracy. Okay, so independence. The guy on the right is Richard Henry Lee, and he was a Virginian and also part of the Philadelphia Congress, which is also known as the Second Continental Congress. He called for colony independence. His resolution was passed on July 2nd, 1776, and it was the formal resolution for the Declaration of Independence. Colonies, in order for colony, like America at the time to declare independence from Britain, they had to all of them had to agree that they wanted independence from Britain. So that was some kind of unity that they had during that time. The Declaration of Independence was passed on July 2nd, and then it was amended on July 4th. And then when it was amended, it was then known as the Declaration of Independence.
It was written by Thomas Jefferson, and then it was edited by members of Congress.
The guy on the left is John Adams, and the guy on the right is Benedict Arnold. John Adams was a known patriot, and Benedict Arnold was a known loyalist after he betrayed the colonies. So these are some differences between patriots and loyalists. Patriots were American rebels. They were also called Whigs. They consisted mainly of young people, and there were a lot of patriots residing in New England because the self-government there was stronger. Congregationalism and Presbyterianism were the dominant religions, and mercantilism and its belief wasn't as strong. Loyalists were people who were loyal to the king. Colonists who were loyal to the king. They were also called Tories. They were 60% of the colonist population, so they were really small, and they mainly consisted of wealthy, old, and well-educated people who were happy with the way their lives were and didn't want any change. It's like aristocrats. A lot of loyalists were part of Anglican churches. This was the Battle of Lexington and Concord in 1775. It started the American Revolution, and it was basically like a skirmish between British troops and colonial militiamen. During the American Revolution, London officials wanted to capture the Hudson River in 1777 from colonists, and their goal was to cut off New England from the rest of the states and stop the American cause, but they failed to do so because of Benedict Arnold's military strategies. This is him, by the way. He was known for being a military general and being very good at devising plans to attack the British before he betrayed the colonists, This was the Battle of Saratoga in 1777. Basically, what happened during it was that General Burgoyne, a British officer, invaded New York, but the American army caught onto his plans and trapped that army at Saratoga. Burgoyne was forced to surrender his entire command in 1777, and the battle was very important to the Revolutionary War because it revived colonists' passion for the Revolution and allowed America to receive foreign aid from France, which was really crucial to them gaining their independence. Moving on, so why did France help the colonists in the Revolutionary War? And there are a couple reasons for that.
First, they believed that if Britain got its colonies back, then Britain might use the colonies to take control of the French West Indies, which the French valued greatly.
Second, the French hated Britain. Third, at first they didn't think that colonists were really passionate about getting their independence, but after the Declaration of Independence showed that they were, and the Battle of Saratoga showed that they had a chance of winning against them, the French were more willing to support them. Oh, and this image is from the Battle of Yorktown. It just shows the French with George Washington. After the Battle of Saratoga in 1777, British officers passed a measure that gave Americans all they wanted except independence. So in 1778, the French offered the American colonies a peace treaty that promised them everything Britain had promised, plus independence. It was called the Treaty of Alliance, and colonies agreed to it. But later, the war between Britain and its colonies eventually becomes a world war, and after France entered the war with the Treaty Alliance, in 1778, Spain then entered the war in 1789, and the war was fought in Europe, North America, South America, the Caribbean, and Asia. So this was Nathaniel Greene. He was a general in the Continental Army during the Revolutionary War, and he was famous for coming up with strategies that defeated his enemy, who was General Charles Cornwallis, who was British, by the way. Some Indian relations with Britain and colonies during the war. So this shows the Treaty of Fort Stanwix. Some Indians sided with the Americans, whereas some joined the British. those who sided with the British believed that the British would stop colonists from expanding west. So like the Indians didn't really like the colonists like encroaching in on their land and wanted to put a stop to that. But eventually the Treaty of Fourth Standings was created, and it was the first treaty between the Indians and the US, and pro-British Indians were forced to sign it. The treaty said that Indians would have to give up their land. This guy is John Paul Jones, and he was a colonist. He was a Navy officer who led small navies that destroyed British's merchant shipping and pushed the war into the seas closer to Britain. Privateers also had a really big role in the American Revolution. They were privately owned armed ships that had permission from Congress to loot on enemy ships, which were ships from Britain. And they brought a lot of gold to colonies. Okay, so armed neutrality. That is basically just like European countries who were annoyed by Britain's dominance over the seas decided to like band together and create this league. Their goal was more rights, and it was led by Catherine the Great of Russia. In this picture, you'll see a man in a nightshirt, which represents England, being attacked by several men representing like the countries of the Armed Neutrality League and their allies. Okay, this picture, as I said earlier, shows the Battle of Yorktown. And the Battle of Yorktown was one of the last battles in the American Revolution. During the Battle of Yorktown, General Cornwallis and his men stayed in Yorktown in order to wait for British to send supplies to them after they lost the previous battle. But the British never sent supplies to them because they had a weak naval power. So Admiral de Grasse and George Washington went to go attack General Cornwallis after receiving news of his stay, and Cornwallis and his men ended up surrounding to George Washington and Admiral de Grasse. Okay, so peace treaty. After the Battle of Yorktown, many British started to dislike the war and wanted it to end. So colonists sent 3 Americans, Ben Franklin, John Jay, and John Adams, to gather in Paris to negotiate peace with them. John Jay made a deal with the British behind the French's back, and the deal was called the Treaty of Paris. But the Treaty of Paris in 1873 was basically a treaty in which Britain formally recognized the colonies as an independent country, and also gave them the land to the west, which they had been coveting this entire time. This means that the colonies had won the war and finally gained their independence from Britain. So, you may be wondering, why did Britain easily give Americans a peace treaty? And it was simple. It was because it was trying to seduce them from their enemy, the French. So it made a peace treaty with colonies so that they wouldn't be able to become allies, closer allies with a friend. And the enemy of my enemy is my friend. That kind of stuff. And also, France played a pivotal role during the American Revolution. It convinced Spain to enter the war on their side, and also it had a plan, which basically was when it wanted colonies to gain independence from Britain so it could control them and then force them to stay east of the Allegheny area, so east, basically past the mountain area. This plan didn't work. It failed because John Jay managed to catch it in time and then betray France. France's goal, the whole reason why it supported America during this Revolutionary War, was because it wanted to promote its interests, policy, and improve its position. And that is all for today. Thank you. Actually, wait, I lied. This is a map of the US during that time, and this is the Treaty of Paris in 1783. Okay, now that's all. Thank you.